Ideology refers to a set of ideas and ideals that are shared by a group of people. It is a system of political, economic, cultural, and social principles that are ingrained into any given society. These values and beliefs are considered to be the norm within the society they exist in, often thought of as a constant of everyday life. Because we belong to a structured society with an established set of rules and ideals, we are living under the constant control of the dominant ideology. This ideology imposes itself into just about every aspect of our culture, and almost everything within our society can be traced to it. In their text Cinema Ideology Criticism, critics Jean-Louis Comolli and Jean Narboni theorize that cinema is simply just an expression of the dominant ideology. They reason that because every film is part of an economic system, it is also part of the ideological system. Expanding, they explain that every film is a manufactured product, one that must first be financed, produced, and then distributed in order to be made and subsequently sold to an audience. These steps of filmmaking are inescapable. Their relations to an economic system binds them to an ideology and renders the final product a simple reiteration of that same ideology. In this video essay, we will be looking at how ideology presents itself in Howard Hawks' 1944 film, To Have and Have Not.
In order to distinguish between how different films interact with the dominant ideology, Comolli and Narboni create a system of categories in which to organize various types of films. To Have and Have Not belongs to their first category of films, Category A. Category A makes up the largest group of films which Comolli and Narboni argue exist entirely within the dominant ideology, in a pure form, and give no indication that their makers are aware of the fact. These films are reassuring to the audience because the ideology shown on screen is simply a reiteration of ideology they see in their daily lives. Looking at To Have and Have Not, the ideology expresses itself through its traditional Western narrative that exhibits strong American values and beliefs.
To Have and Have Not reflects the dominant American ideology, firstly by belonging to Hollywood's capitalist system. Regardless of the time period, Hollywood is undoubtedly the dominant film industry in terms of the sheer economic relations governing its production and distribution of films. As America runs on a capitalist system, it survives through the purchasing and selling of goods, and as Comolli and Narboni suggest, Hollywood films are commodities that are sold and created simply for profit. With this in mind, because To Have and Have Not is a Hollywood film, we can consider it to both belong to and reinforce the capitalist system.
What the public wants means what the dominant ideology wants. This quote is particularly relevant to Hawks' film, a film that regularly reminds us that it was made in America through its emphasis on core ideals and principles of American ideology, specifically patriotism. Americans and patriotism go hand in hand. It is practically embedded in their culture. Through the film's depiction of the strong American protagonist in a foreign land, the audience can associate with Bogart's character. Harry Morgan, an American working in Martinique, is pulled into a foreign conflict and is ultimately forced to end the fighting, which he does almost single-handedly. With this victory, it would seem that Harry paved the way for the resistance to help bring victory in France. Here, an American was able to change the course of history by himself outside of America.
To further highlight the American ideology presented in To Have or Have Not, we'd like to do a quick analysis of one of the scenes in the film. In this scene, which occurs at 44 minutes in, Harry agrees to transport 2 members of the resistance back to the island. Upon agreeing to do this, a member of the resistance tells Harry,
"I'm glad you're on our side."
Harry responds,
I'm getting paid.
Here Harry represents the working class man, making a living operating a small fishing boat. He is simply taking this job for the money and doesn't care for the political implications behind his actions. Additionally, Harry exhibits strong leadership traits. He imposes his rules for the journey and makes sure it's done his way. He appears self-reliant and individualistic, hard-working and determined. Harry represents the all-American masculine protagonist, expressing classic American values and ideals, while at the same time acting as a stand-in for the audience. As Comolli and Narboni state, this is the ideology talking to itself. In this scene, Bogart is cool, smoking cigarettes, giving orders, and commanding others. When one of the characters doubts whether or not Harry can be trusted, he demonstrates his American ingenuity by telling her to remove the pillow placed under the wounded leg of the soldier lying on the bed. He says the soldier must face his pain, unless he wishes to potentially contract gangrene. After this, Harry turns to the woman and says,
"You can trust me now."
Suggesting that Americans are both knowledgeable and trustworthy. In Category A of Comolli and Narboni's classification system, they speak of films which are imbued through and through with dominant ideology in pure and adulterated forms. Through its relation to the capitalist system and through its depiction of American values and ideas, To Have and Have Not is a perfect representation of such a film, serving as a strong expression of the dominant ideology.